DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. I'm tickled to death that you joined us today. We're going to have a great show. Our guest is Dr. Chris Rodemaker from Iowa State University, and we're going to talk about swine lameness, something that's growing more in concern, things that are more of a eating into our pocketbook, so to say. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that you enjoy our show.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America, a place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Dr. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm sure glad to be here.
Folks, this is Dr. Chris Rodemaker from Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where he serves as the swine extension veterinarian, and you're also a senior clinician there at the veterinary school.
That's correct.
Well, to get you here on the show, I know you're busy, and what you do for the industry, we really appreciate you taking the time to come talk about this important issue.
I sure appreciate being able to talk to people about it, because this really has become a really growing issue here in the swine industry over the past 15 to 20 years.
Cool. And folks, what we're talking about is swine lameness. And you know, when we're setting up the show and queuing things up, you have a lot of experience you know, working in the industry and being a practicing veterinarian in swine industries in Minnesota, well, all over the United States. And so this is something you have a firsthand knowledge of.
Yeah, I think over the past 16 years, I practiced with a couple of large swine production companies. And really what we saw over the time is we saw more and more incidents of lameness, both in the sow herds and in the grow-finish herds as well. Sow herds, I think, as we've gotten to moving animals indoors and moving them towards artificial insemination, we probably haven't selected for as structurally sound animals as we would have in the past. And in the grow-finish herds, we're taking pigs to a much heavier weight these days than what we used to do before. And there's obviously always disease concerns and challenges about how to formulate diets to keep the cost down that can potentially run into some situations as well.
You bet. Well, let's go back to the breeding herd, and let's start out and we'll talk about the breeding herd. And you know, one of the things that you caught my attention is that, you know, the way we select and the way we manage it may have allowed us to be a little bit more permissive in laying some of these non-conforming animals into the herd.
Yeah, I think artificial insemination really revolutionized breeding herd because it allowed us to put fewer boars in those environments and get our semen externally, which means that we could really breed sows and we could really start to select in on the sows that produced a lot of pigs and weaned a lot of pigs. And in the rules of genetics is whatever you select for one thing, you're selecting away from something else. We probably selected away from because we weren't putting heavy boars on top of sows to do natural mating anymore. We would probably allow sows that in a normal natural production situation wouldn't even be in there because they couldn't support the weight of the boar. But over time, I think what happened then is those animals become lame really easily. They wind up going down and having to exit their herd too early.
You bet. And then we talked a little bit too about that. Used to be we got our genetics from commercial operations,
yeah.
And now we're producing a little bit more of our own. Yep. That we're not as picky as the animals that we utilize.
That's right. You know, back in the day when the swine industry was really expanding, everybody bought their genetics from an external supplier, and at that time, you certainly didn't want to risk the chance of putting all the money into this replacement gilt and then have the end customer reject it. Now today, you've got a situation where most of the producers are producing their own, so you're probably a little more permissive on what you let into the herd, and you're not maybe utilizing some of those skills of looking for really sound animals. You're just concerned that, hey, I've got a gilt here, she's got a vulva, she looks like she's got 4 legs, so let's go ahead and move her into. So the economies are always a little bit different depending on which side of the ledger you sit on. So I think that's exacerbated the problem as well.
You bet. Well, let's take a break. And
All
when
right.
we come back, more with Dr. Chris Rodemaker. Here, you're watching Doc Talk. More after these messages.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Emily Sievert was raised in a small farming community in Western Ohio and is a 4th-year student at the Ohio State University College of Veterinary Medicine. She studied bovine respiratory disease in beef feedlots and was also involved in a related telemedicine project. Upon graduation, Emily plans to focus on food animal medicine, pathology, and food safety.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher. Get the new hired hand for yourself or become a distributor. Visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
Hi, I'm Kevin Ochsner, host of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman and Colorado Rancher. Join me each week as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association brings you the latest updates in industry information and market news. Plus, each week we provide important educational information and features on cattlemen from across the country just like you. And we can't forget our favorite cowboy poet, Baxter Black. Join me for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, debuting Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern, right here on RFD TV.
This segment is brought to you by Norbrook Laboratories, manufacturers of Enroflox 100, the newest addition to your arsenal for treating bovine and swine respiratory disease.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Chris Rodemaker from Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where he serves as the Swine Extension Veterinary Specialist, and he's also a senior clinician. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for talking about swine lameness. And we left talking about the sows and the gilts, and let's jump in the grow finish area and talk a little bit about the lameness problems that we're seeing there.
Yeah, I would say we probably also have seen an increase in lameness problems in the grow finish animals too. And I'm sure part of that is the genetic thing like we talked about before. We've selected for animals that are very prolific from a reproductive standpoint and ones that grow very fast, probably not as worried about the structural issues that maybe would go on with some of those situations.
That's kind of like what the poultry industry, they went through it.
Very similar.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very similar types of ordeals. But the other thing is some of it we might have brought on a little bit on our own on these heavier outweights as well.
Yep. I think because the industry is becoming so vertically integrated, what they're really seeing is, that big packing plant, it's a very expensive fixed cost. So the more pounds you put through it, that's how they kind of lower their costs. So what we've seen in our genetic, we probably selected for fast-growing animals that we can take to heavier weights. But I don't think what happens in all that genetic selection is we don't select for an animal that maybe has the musculoskeletal system to be able to support all that weight. And I think that could potentially create some of the lameness issues as well.
You bet. And so are there I had two others here, and they kind of go hand in hand with production, but disease potential and nutrition.
Yeah. Yep.
As well.
Yep. I'd say if we look at total lameness cases that have come into Iowa State over the last 7 to 8 years, there's probably been a really big spike in the last 3 to 4. There's probably been a couple of mycoplasma diseases that have been in the joints that maybe have always been there, but seems to be a couple of them have been exasperated with some of the heavier weights, particularly Mycoplasma hyosinoviae. because a lot of those are secondary to some of these bone structure problems, problems with osteochondrosis, for example, can potentiate some of that stuff. So we've seen a definite increase in those mycoplasma-related diseases. And the other thing that we've seen is some of these nutritional issues. And I think what happened, what really kind of changed that was the fact that they were able to engineer an enzyme called phytase, which the primary role of phytase is to get more phosphorus out of the phosphorus that goes into the diet. And what that allows for is obviously helping us to cheapen the diet. The problem is it's an enzyme. So if something happens to that enzyme during the process, it's not taking out as much phosphorus as what they hoped for. What happens is you get a calcium-phosphorus imbalance, and then sure enough what happens is you start to have bone structure issues, so you can start to see fractures and things like that, particularly with going to heavier weights are going to exacerbate that problem.
Absolutely. And, you know, when we're even on a guy that's going out and buying one show pig, you know, we've always looked at that conformation, and it seems like that conformation as a young pig, fast growth, heavier growth rates really can have an impact.
Yep, it sure can. You know, and the conformation thing too, you know, you look at all the people that do the selection of the replacement animals, you know, it used to be kids that grew up with animals, and unfortunately because of migration away from the farm in some rural communities, we don't have people with those kinds of backgrounds, so they maybe don't look at that as importantly as they're looking at, you know, how many pigs did she have, or did her mother have, or things like that.
Looking at the computer more than the pig.
And the pig, exactly.
All right, well, let's take a break. Folks, Dr. Chris Rodemaker from Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. We'll be back with more Doc Talk after these messages.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at beyondtheelevator.com.
I've always had an interest in care for the animals and their well-being. Really what we want to do is work hard to eliminate as much feedlot lameness or beef cattle lameness as possible.
How we feed a cow on a daily basis can not only have daily effects, but they can also have long-term effects on claw health, reproductive performance, mammary health, all of those factors as we look at the inputs and the response that the animal has to what we feed them.
When animals have adequate intake of effective nutrients, we take care of the immune system and performance follows. It's important that the consumers understand our dedication to the well-being of these animals.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We are having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net. Beef producers asked for it, and Norbrook delivers. Introducing new Enroflox 100, the newest addition to your arsenal for treating bovine respiratory disease. Enroflox 100 is an FDA-approved, ready-to-use injectable antimicrobial solution to treat BRD associated with Mannheimia hemolytica, Pasteurella multocida, and Histophilus somni in beef and non-lactating dairy cattle. Administered SQ as a multiple-day therapy. Consult with your veterinarian today about Enroflox 100, the new choice.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
test group, weighing systems, electronic identification EID, electric fencing, and dairy automation systems help farmers and ranchers around the world manage the performance of their livestock for ultimate profitability.
Folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson and Dr. Chris Rodemaker. Dr. Chris is from Iowa State University, my alma mater, and he is the swine extension veterinarian up there and senior clinician. And we've been talking about lameness, and as we left, we're talking about grow finish. But let's go back to the sows, and let's talk about some of the ways that we can prevent this. Because I know that ZenPro's done a lot of work on organic trace mineral, and you had some experience of that when you're in practice. Yeah. So let's start out with the nutrition.
You bet. A lot of that we actually picked up. They've got a very healthy business in the dairy business where they're looking at, and I think the dairy guys have quantified really well the effect of foot health on milk production and on reproductive performance. And really, they kind of took the opinion of, well, why wouldn't sows be the same as cows?
Right.
And it's a good way to think about it. So we'd actually done a couple of studies looking at some of their organic trace minerals to see, hey, if we make foot health better, does that reduce some of that inflammation that can really become kind of the profit robber, because sows don't milk as well, they don't eat as well, they don't stay in the herd as long. And what happens is they're not going to be near as productive animals, and they're going to wind up sliding out of the herd much earlier, either as deaths or culls, because they just can't stand up very well.
And so when you start going to some of these organic trace minerals, you start seeing improved hoof structure and then also some performance.
That's correct. We'd done a study where we saw that. We definitely saw the changes in the foot structure, and we measured them in a research barn, and it looked like we saw like 5% better retention rate for sows that would stay into the herd longer. We saw probably nearly a half a pound on weaning weight, and a lot of that was all mediated through sows ate better, they returned to breeding better, and then they just made heavier pigs. So it certainly looked like there was some impact to adding that organic trace mineral to the diets.
And one of the other things is that y'all went back to looking at some of the conformation as well.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to have a consultant, Dean Compart, actually, an old purebred breeder from Minnesota for years, came out and evaluated one of our herds. And as we got walking through there, we looked at the cull line, and here what we saw were animals that were in the cull, sows to be culled, but they were in there for any number of sorts of reasons, but they all had pretty poor conformation. Then we went to the part of the barn that had the oldest sows in there, and they're kind of some rougher looking old sows, but their conformation was absolutely perfect. And we didn't select it that way. Those animals self-selected out over time. They stayed in the herd longer because they had good conformation. So that's really been kind of a lesson learned to say we need to go back to really starting to look at some of this conformation, the foot conformation, when we're doing selection for replacement animals.
And I think it was, when you made the comment that when we're selecting for one trait, we're deselecting for another.
Yeah. Yep, and I think that was an easy one to give up, because when the statisticians and the geneticists put that into the model, it didn't rate out very, very high, because back in the day it was all about how do we get these sows to give us more pigs and have those pigs grow faster. And I think the conformation thing just kind of got left to the side over time. So.
Yeah, and we see it all the time, and maybe it's that optimizing growth instead of maximizing growth that all of our industries are going through.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all part of the growing pain process, that's for sure.
Cool. Well, folks, we're going to take a break. Dr. Chris Rodemaker from Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. More Doc Talk right after this.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica, Inc.
Hello folks, this is Dr. Nels Lindberg with Animal Medical Center and Production Animal Consultation. This is your BQA Tip of the Day. It's a nice, beautiful springtime. We got some cattle out on rye, but it's often common time of year for cattle to be turned out on rye and wheat. One thing we often have a problem with this time of year is bloat. These cattle develop a frothy bloat out on rye. It can be a very challenging situation to deal with. We have many different products we can use, bloat guard blocks. We can actually feed them some extra feed to offset the effects of bloat. But oftentimes one of the biggest factors in it is simply the stocking density rate. We can oftentimes control our frothy bloats just by increasing our numbers out on the rye or wheat. That may not be an option, but if it is, stocking density is the biggest factor in reducing those bloats. Other than that, fall back on your products and visit with your local veterinarian. Thank you.
no matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
It takes vision, dedication, hard work. It takes knowing who you can trust. At Zinpro Corporation, we have more industry-endorsed research behind our trace minerals than any other company. Proof that our patented performance minerals help improve overall animal health and performance. Lots of companies make claims. At Zinpro, we generate results.
Working your cattle just got easier. Introducing the new VetGun delivery system, a new way to apply topical insecticides to your cattle. The VetGun lets you remotely treat cattle with effective parasite control, so you can do it just walking among the herd. It's that simple. The proven topical insecticide AML VetCap is used with the VetGun. It works fast to control horn flies and lice while minimizing stress on your cattle. Fast, easy, effective. VetGun. Check with your animal health supplier for availability.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Chris Rodemaker. And Dr. Chris is from Iowa State University, where he serves as the swine extension veterinarian and senior clinician at the College of Veterinary Medicine. And we're talking about swine lameness. And, you know, when you get into these cases, and you're a producer out there, and we have producers watching, we have veterinarians watching, we have people that aren't involved in the swine industry watching, but when you get out there and find that lameness issue, what are some of the first steps you need to go through?
Yeah, good point. I think getting the veterinarian involved is probably the primary thing, just because they'll do a really good job of helping you think through and sort through. Now, our experience has been is these lameness cases usually are pretty complicated. It's not usually just as simple as, well, you're doing this wrong, change this and it'll fix the problem. They tend to be multifactorial, so many different things that may be causing it. So we've had the best luck in resolving these cases generally if we see an outbreak either in a sow farm or in a grow finish herd, is to actually load up, 15, 20, coordinate with the diagnostic lab ahead of time. But we've taken anywhere from 15 to 30 animals in and let the pathologists do the necropsy and do all the tests there. And that's really been a good way to be able to kind of whittle it down and to be able to definitively tell us, here's what the issues really are. And then that's allowed us to kind of go back and plan for, okay, well, what do we got to change to make this thing better?
Right. And so a lot of times, is it site specific, or can it be, spread across a farm, or,
Yep, great question. Usually, I'd say more often than not, it tends to be a little bit more systematic. It can be a site issue, but many times, especially if we talk about genetics or nutrition or breeding herd, it's probably affected pigs on multiple sites. So
gotcha.
All the more reason really to be able to get your veterinarian, and then they'll probably get a diagnostic lab involved to come up with the right diagnosis.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing that we see, whether it's beef industry or poultry or swine, is that Dad always said that he could sell a vaccine for a few $1,000s, but he couldn't sell a diagnosis for a few dollars.
Absolutely.
And I think getting that diagnostic answer is so vitally important.
That's right. It's key, because then you can go back and and the veterinarians will be good at this. Okay, here's what the issue is. Here's what that's really costing you. It's like the dead pig thing, but if it's slowing down your growth or having a poor feed conversion, that's really going to cost you money. So the diagnostic actually gets to be the cheapest part of that whole process.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things too that when you start to say, hey, the sooner we get to the bottom of this, the sooner we can start to fix it.
That's exactly right.
Well, I appreciate you being here on the show.
My pleasure. I appreciate being asked.
Thanks. And folks, we appreciate you watching Doc Talk as well. If you want to know more about what we do here at Doc Talk, you can find us on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. Thanks for watching Doc Talk today. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. Doc Talk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.